Alright, hello my YouTube friends. I've missed you guys. So, I'm sorry for uploading this so late. I made this video 2 separate times. First time, I got caught up in something and had to stop and run off. And the second time I actually finished recording and then played it back to make sure it sounded good and looked good. And my mic wasn't even on. I guess when I plugged in my external microphone, it turned off my internal microphone, and I don't have my equipment set up right now. So there was just no mic. So it was just my mouth was moving, but there was nothing coming out. So this is going to be a late upload. It's attempt number 3. I kind of have to skim through and still try to get some good information out without taking all night, because it's 11:30 now. Alright, so what we're talking about here is word games. I'm sure that a lot of people already know some of this stuff. Hopefully all of it. Hopefully everything I tell you, you already know. That would be great. But I'm just trying to get back into doing these videos, typing out my transcripts and stuff like that. I actually had, I'm pretty well known where I live here as far as business owners. My wife has a business, and she has contracts with a lot of the business owners. So one of the businesses that I used to work for, I guess it was like his friend, but the guy called me up and he got a reference from someone else around the corner here that I used to work for, and the guy's business was going under because of the CV stuff, and he asked me if I could help him. So that's why I haven't made a video in like 6 months. It seems a lot longer than that, but that's all good, taken care of. He's back solid and rolling and making money again, so now I'm getting back to what I like to do. Alright. This came about by me looking around, seeing the way that things are. Obviously, stuff is really messed up. So this is part of that. Damn it. Alright. This is things like cases, right? When you hear cases, that don't mean shit. And all legalese is constructed this way. This is the code, the federal code. And this is how they manipulate people, right? So when we read the code, right, you might read a part of the code that says FBI uniforms must be yellow and da-da-da-da-da, right? This is an example. It's not... So when you see that, right, what you're going to need to do is roll back to the beginning of that section and define the word yellow, right? You could roll back to the beginning of that section, and it could say that yellow is defined as a reddish blue color. You never know, right? That's just an example. And that's how they get it. That's how they get people, right? They define words how they want to define words, and when they ask you a question, it's a totally separate question from what you believe it is, right? So let me read this to you. This is Chapter 1, Section 1 of the Federal Code, okay? The first thing it does is starts defining words. In determining the meaning of any act of Congress, I haven't read in a while, unless the context indicates otherwise. Words importing the singular include and apply to several parties or things, which literally means that singular means one, right? No, not according to the federal code. Singular means multiple, just as plural means one. How do we know that? Because the very next section, the same section, the next sentence says, words importing the plural include the singular, right? So if they say people, that also means person. And if they say person, that also means people. And it gets worse. Words importing the masculine also include the feminine. Words used in the present tense, now, include the future as well as the present, which is a very important thing to take note of. Okay, because if they say starting now, we're going to do this, that means the future as well, and it's right there. I gave you the code. The words insane and insane person shall include every idiot, insane person, and person non compos mentis, meaning of unsound mind. Right now, what you would do is go define unsound and all that, and you would see that the word insane also applies to someone who isn't insane. The words person, this is something that I really want to point out, because I hear people all the time say person means corporation. And that's true. It includes corporation, but it's not limited to corporation. The words person and whoever include corporations, companies, associations, firms, partnerships, societies, and joint stock companies, as well as individuals. So a person can be one person, but it's also a corporation. Officer includes any person authorized by law to perform the duties of the office. And this is still in Chapter 1, Section 1. So what I want to do here, right, is I want to pause and share something with you. If we look in Black's Law Dictionary, it's like page 400 and something, I think. That's probably not right. Okay, so when we look up the word law, L-A-W, in Black's Law Dictionary, it says consensus facit legum. Consent makes the law. Period. Consent makes the law. Period. The period's not in there. That's me. Yeah. Also, when we define the word law in a legal dictionary, we see this statement, right? The term law is used in opposition to fact. Okay? Fact is true. It's a fact. The commercial code here, these laws, are opposite of that. What's the opposite of fact? So, an officer includes any person authorized by law, consent, basically, a lie, to perform the duties of the office. Signature or subscription, we're on YouTube here, subscription is a legal term, includes a mark when the person making the same intended it as such. Oath includes affirmation, and sworn includes affirmed. Writing includes printing and typewriting and reproduction of visual symbols by photographing, multigraphing, mimeographing, manifolding, or otherwise. So, a picture, visual symbols, those are writing. Alright, so let's say you end up at court for some reason, right? And during the questioning, the prosecutor says, who was the person you were with yesterday? Okay? If yesterday, at any point in the day, you had stopped at McDonald's and got a frappe, would it be true that the person you were with was McDonald's? Yes, it would, because person is corporation, company, society, all those terms. That would be a true statement. Partnerships, corporations, all that. Those are persons. This word game that they play has a lot of people really stupid right now. Like, I have seen people say and do the stupidest things. I never ever thought people could get as stupid as they are right now. It's really incredible. And this is why they don't understand the information that they're being presented. When the news says, oh, there's 742 million cases, right? They get scared and start reacting emotionally, and the news literally said nothing. What? Okay. So, this all goes back, right, to there is a realm. Okay, this is a mental thing, right? There's a world, and it's commercial. And in this commercial world, we exist on a sea of debt, right? The Holy See is the top of the sea of debt. And that is why monetary terms are water terms. Cash flow, riverbank, all those words, right? Currency. That's why. They're identical. In this commercial code here that I was just reading from about the definitions, that is the law of the sea. So, when there are additions to the code in regard to the movement of vessels, right? Like the Bill Clinton executive order. Bill Clinton signed an executive order that was about the movement of vessels. The first ever executive order that was signed. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it was Dwight D. Eisenhower, and it was about creating vessels to move, creating vessels to engage in commerce, right? So, 2 sections later, right, I was reading from Chapter 1, Section 1 of the Federal Code. Chapter 1, Section 3. The word vessel includes every description of watercraft or other artificial contrivance used or capable of being used as a means of transportation on water. In this light, we can see, right, that in this realm, this is speaking about wealth moving up and down the financial ladder in your vessel in this world, this sea of debt. Like I said, it's a whole realm where words have different meanings. It's legalese. It's the realm of law. The code. It's not law. Law is inevitable, and if you break it, you get your ass kicked. Right? Go try to break the laws of gravity. Right? It's not going to happen. Alright. Back on track. Alright, so the reason that I'm bothering defining these this legalese crap, right? They can say one thing to you and ask you a question, right? An example being, if someone says, do you have kids? Right? That could mean, do you have offspring of your own? Or it could mean, do you have baby goats? And that's how they get it. That's why everybody is losing their mind and running around and so afraid of everything. I'll tell you what. People are really, really, really worried about this delta, right? But not a single person seems to be worried about the alpha and the omega. And that is a whole other problem. Alright, so the way these words work, right? They have their dual meanings. This is applicable to more than just the law, right? There's a section of the code that says up includes down. Okay, so if somebody says, what color is the ceiling? And you look at the floor and give the color of the floor, you're also right. This rigged, corrupt ass system. That's how they do it. So this This also works with religious texts, right? So when you read the statement, this is one of my favorites, manifest in the flesh, right? That has more than one meaning. Depending on if you're speaking internally, it could manifest in your flesh, or foolishly, externally, as in manifest its own vessel. A thorn is not just a defense mechanism of a plant, right? Regret is a thorn. Remorse is a thorn. Someone who annoys the shit out of you is a thorn in your side. So, if I said that there was a crown, not corona, a crown of thorns, right? The external crown goes on your head, but the internal crown is the mind. So if you have a crown of thorns, right, that could mean a bunch of plants woven together, but it could also mean a mind full of hurtful thoughts. Alright. I'm trying to skim through. I missed a lot of stuff here, but we're just going to keep rolling. So the key to winning at this game, right, is never make a claim or assumption, right? Don't answer a question directly. I don't recommend that you just start talking to people, random people, but should you get into a discussion with some government officer, play this game a little bit, you know? I wouldn't recommend making them angry and ending up getting attacked and going to jail, but give it a shot, you know? Play some games here. Let's say you're driving down the street, you get pulled over, the cop says, hey, let me see your insurance, right? Pull out your life insurance policy and hand it to them. This is how they play the game. This is the game you play on the court of law. The word game. So, never make a definitive claim. Don't speak in absolutes, right? The thing about the baby goat and the kid, right? Somebody says, hey, do you have kids? No, I've never been fortunate enough to have enough farmland, because goats on a farm, right? Play the word game. Words like the and a, they make it fun, right? Because it's non-specific. It's a generalized term. If someone says, did you fill out the form, right? Obviously, you know their chances are they're talking about a paper that you fill out, which if you want to take the time to define form legally, you'll see that it's an instrument, right? There's instruments and there's notes. And those are both monetary terms as well. And that's really something I want to get into, because those are musical terms. So anyway, let's say you go to the DMV. I've been dealing with cars a lot, so this is why this is on my mind. You go to the DMV and they say, have you filled out the form? Well, you fit into your body, so yeah, you filled out the form. It'd be impossible not to. The word game, and you're not lying. That's what's important. Now, this seems kind of silly, right? But if you want to go back and look at popular court cases, O.J., Chauvin, Casey Anthony, you'll see how this game is played. It's this code. They make words mean anything, and then when they use those words towards you and you don't understand what they're saying, you're giving the wrong information and thus in dishonor. And that's the goal. The goal is to have you standing in dishonor, and once that happens, they win. If you remain in honor, you win, right? And to do that, you ask the question, what does that mean? Somebody says, do you have kids? What's a kid? What do you mean by kid? Because they know they're speaking a different language, and you know they're speaking a different language. But kid has more than one meaning, so what is a kid? Alright, so last example, I promise, I really like this game here. the way these words work and have more than one meaning is actually how I actually managed to crack open all these religious texts, right? Like I just said, Jesus manifests in the flesh. I read that, but my mind was on the opposite side, where I wasn't thinking externally, I was thinking internally. And so I realized Jesus manifests in my flesh, and in your flesh, but not external. A crown of thorns, the earthly man will tell you it is branches or vines woven together that have little prickles on them. Internally, the crown of thorn is the thing that keeps you awake at night. Alright. So, last one, okay? Run up to somebody and you pants them, right? I think that's what it used to be called. You pull somebody's pants down, right? Whatever. That's the same thing as if you knew something about someone and you went and told other people about it. You exposed them, right? Now, if you read something about someone being exposed, if you were in a more negative mindset, maybe you would think that that's what it meant. Somebody pulled their pants down, right? But if you're thinking internally and in a different mindset, you're gonna perceive it as information was exposed about them, basically. And this one's extra fun because there's actually a saying that goes, they were caught with their pants down. Alright, enough of it, I'm sorry. Like I said, I do just enjoy this game. It's something, I'm trying to use this to get my mind back to the place where it was. Because when I was making videos before, my mind was really pure, and I was able to perceive deeply into things. And now my mind is corrupt, and I've been aggravated a lot, and yeah. This game is endless. I play it all the time. Alright. Still skimming, sorry. Alright, couple things, and then I'm gone, right? One thing I hear all the time, right? Back in the day, I used to watch RFB, right? And I'm grateful that I did, because that's where I ran into Big Sib at, was RFB. Might be the best thing that dude has ever done for anybody, was bring Brandon onto his channel. Okay, so Richie finishes up his video. I haven't watched in a while. I used to like Fear, I like that, oh, they're coming for us shit. Not anymore. They've been coming for us since the 1800s. They've been coming to get our guns since the fucking 60s. World War III is 100 years old. Comet coming in from space has been here since the dawn of time. Y2K. All this bullshit is always right at the door, but it never comes. And it never will. Right now, right, they're talking about the vax passports and shit like that. That's not coming. Forcing people to get stuck, that's not going to come either. It's always at the door, but it never arrives. Alright, so, Richie, I hear people say, I do not consent, okay? And that's all well and good. You shouldn't consent to a lot of things that are supposed to be happening. But consent is 1/10 verbal. You can say, as a male, someone born with male reproductive organ, you can say, I'm a woman. Right? That don't make you a woman. Or, as someone who is, as someone who is corrupt can say, I'm a Christian. But then they go out drinking, partying, hating people, and talking about you damn Islam, whatever. you're not a Christian. You're a liar. What matters is your behavior, right? The things that you think on and behave and support. There's a word that I've been trying to remember for like 40 minutes now, right? Condone. That's the word. Okay. Alright, and this is why I don't pay federal taxes. I won't pay federal taxes. I fucking refuse. Because I know what federal taxes are used for. What's the first thing that old Trumpsky did when he got in office? Bomb Syria. What's the first thing that Biden did when he got in office? Bomb Syria. What's the first thing that I ain't paying it. I ain't throwing in 5 on that shit. You crazy. So if you say I don't support child labor, right, which I recommend no one support child labor, and then you go buy Nikes and iPhones, you're a liar, because Nike and Apple, they use child labor. GM just opened plants in Mexico, and the Mexican people were working for like $25 a day, and GM was talking about leaving because the Mexican people want more money than that, right? And that's dead wrong. Like you can't live off $25 a day. The profit margins and shit is insane. It's just, if you go and buy a GM right now, knowing what I just said, I mean, you indirectly, or what's the legal term, implied consent. Right. I hope you understand what I'm saying there. Alright. So if you say, I am a child of God, right? But every time that every bad habit that you have, you indulge in, every temptation that you have, you give into, you are a liar. A child of God is one who overcomes the bad habits and the temptations. You have to master the flesh, which is something I really need to get back on, because he knows his time is short, is the saying, and he wiles out. So if you pay federal taxes, right, and you know that the federal government enjoys bombing brown people just so the stock prices go up for Lockheed Martin, you're a hypocrite. You're a liar. Obviously, you support bombing brown people, or you wouldn't. Let me give you this. So there's verbal consent, right, which is like 10% of the whole of the term consent. But more important is implied consent, or as I call it, indirect consent. You may not be directly bombing poor countries or brown people, but by submitting, you are supporting it. You are condoning it. Here's the definition of implied consent. Implied consent is manifested by signs, actions, facts, or by inaction or silence, which raises a presume, that the consent has been given. So if you are not at very least bitching and complaining about paying taxes, yeah. Alright. I kind of dragged that out. Sorry, guys. So, whenever you're talking to the government and you're using these words, it's good to say, I don't consent, but it's even better to behave as though you really don't. And as far as the presumptions, right, that are made by your silence, when you start talking to these legal pieces of shit, and you're asked a question, right, and you answer the question directly. Do you have kids? Yeah, 7. Once you give that direct answer, okay, that means it's fair to presume that you understand the language that we're speaking. So, It's fair to make a mountain of presumptions about you, and that's how they get you. You have to understand what the words mean, right? Because you're answering questions directly. And again, I say, the most important thing that I can say is this: consensus facit legum. Get out of here. Consent makes the law. Why is it okay to bomb brown people? Why is it okay to send a bunch of people to Afghanistan, and then at the same time that we withdraw from Afghanistan, there's a heroin epidemic in the country that produces 90% of the poppy stuff, whatever the hell it is, for the world? That's not coincidence, that's consent. Alright. Alright, that's enough of that. Alright, this is the last thing I'm going to do here, and then we'll part ways, alright? So there's a book that was written in 300 AD, and damn it, I cleared it off my screen. This is a really good book, right? And it is a man who is, it's someone, I believe it's a man, it's one of them ancient philosophers, but this guy's really unpopular, and this is probably why. He's writing a letter to someone, and he is taking the Bible and breaking it down spiritually, and then giving it straight to dude, right? He's given milk for babes, meat for men. He's given this guy the meat, right? This is like if Big Sib was born 1800 years ago, this is it. This is like Big Sib's YouTube channel. Big Sib is amazing. I don't know if you guys know. I'm sure you do, but the information that dude has, there is nothing has ever been recorded on film that is more important than the things that Big Sib is doing on film. There is nothing on the internet that is more important than the things that Big Sib is putting on the internet. And I mean, I'm trying to do the same thing, right? Help people to understand these biblical concepts, but dude, Big Sib is he's just so far. It's amazing. It really is. I hope that it's just the age difference between us, because I assume he's like 30 something, like 37, 36 maybe. I'm just now 30. So hopefully when I'm Big Sib's age, I have that experience and have even more understanding. But I have never met anyone that is more knowledgeable about reality than Sib. It's just me, right? There's probably somebody out there, but they sure as hell ain't talking to me. Alright, so again, I don't praise Sib or worship Sib or nothing like that. The dude is just fucking amazing. He literally, if you listen to Sib, you don't need YouTube for anything else. Just listen to Sib and go sit in your closet. That's all you gotta do. Alright, so this book that I'm talking about, right? It's 100 paragraphs, and it's wrote out like verses, right? And it is magnificent. But any religious document that you get that is from before, pre-1947, is good, right? It's going to be better than everything post-1947. And that's because in 1947, there was a certain nation that was founded in the Middle East. Right next to the little sea there. It was between Egypt and whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Once that piece of land was given that name, people, when they read that word, Israel, in the Bible, they began thinking about that geographic location. And that's not what that is. Israel is the hearts of the Jew, right? The Jew's heart is circumcised from this world, right? And so God dwells in that heart. If you take all of the hearts of those Jews who don't love this world and you were to put them together, right, that would be Israel. And that's pretty straightforward in the Bible. But anything that's written after, it talks about Israel as if it were that Middle Eastern geographic location, and that ruins it. It just throw it out. They're talking about a place on a map. That's so. Here's a sample. This is just one paragraph out of the book. I'm going to read the whole book. Hopefully it's of like an audio book. So this is the end. This is paragraph 95, verse 95. Moreover, Moses in Deuteronomy says that the Gentiles should be the head and the unbelieving people the tail. And again he says, Ye provoked me to jealousy with those that are no gods, and angered me with your idols, and I will provoke you to jealousy with that which is no nation, and with a foolish nation I will anger you. Because they forsook the God who is, and worshipped and served the gods who are not, and they slew the prophet of God, and prophesied for Baal, who was the idol of the Canaanites, and the Son of God who is, they despised and condemned. But they chose Barabbas the robber, who had been taken for murder, and the eternal king they disavowed, and they acknowledged as their king the temporal Caesar. So it pleased God to grant their inheritance to the foolish Gentiles, even to those who were not of the polity of God, and knew not what God is. Since then, by this calling, life has been given us, and God has summed up again for himself in us the faith of Abraham. We ought not turn back any more. I mean, to the first legislation. I have to define that term legally. Legislation. Alright, sorry. He summed up for himself in us the faith of Abraham. We ought not turn back anymore. I mean, to the first legislation. We shouldn't turn back to the first legislation anymore. For we have received the Lord of the law, the Son of God. And by faith in him, we learn to love God with all our heart, and our neighbor as ourselves. Now, the love of God is far from all sin, and love to the neighbor worketh no ill will to the neighbor. It really is. In comparison, that paragraph was mediocre. That's how good the book is. And then in the next little verse, 96, there's this, right? And there will be no command to remain idle for one day to rest, to him who perpetually keeps the Sabbath. I added that in there because that's a point that Big Sib really drives home. The Sabbath is every day. And if you keep the Sabbath every day, you don't have to keep the Sabbath one day. So again I say, there will be no command to remain idle for one day to rest, to him who perpetually keeps the Sabbath. It really is amazing. So, that's it. I'm done. I probably butchered this entire video. I don't really care. It's 12:08. In the future, right? Pretty soon here, I'm back. Like, I'm going to clear out my mind, get all the stress and shit, and just toss it out to the side, clean out the temple, scoot out the money changers, all those things. And then we're getting back in. We're getting right back in. We're going to do some Bible studies, some Quran studies, law studies, Emerald Tablets, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita. They all say the exact same thing. It's the same story, right? About the Son of God came here and gave birth to man, right? The difference is worship according to your culture. So you can go to the northern hemisphere and you'll read the same story, but the people will have different names than if you went to the southern hemisphere. Ancient Native American legends are the same as modern European legends. It's all the same shit. All of it. Worship according to your culture. Alright. One thing that concerns me about the Quran that I recently found out, and I'm going to talk to Bakari about this whenever I can get to that. Jesus, Paul, Moses, Isaac, all of them, right? They're tent builders, carpenters, temple builder. Solomon built the first temple, whatever, which of course isn't a church on the corner. It's the first temple for God. Muhammad was a salesman and a merchant and was involved in commerce. Now, my perception of commerce, right, is it's created by men, right? This is the Luciferian system, if you want to call it that. Personally, I don't use shit like Lucifer and Baal because those ain't real things. Those are pretend gods that don't exist. Somebody made it up and then gave it these qualities and then said, that's my father. No thanks. But the commercial system is the Luciferian system, in my opinion. That's how I understand it. So when people say, the Catholic Church worships Lucifer, I mean, technically, but what it really is men thinking they're above God, the Father, and trying to control the mother, nature. They're trying to control the laws of nature and the principles of reality, and they're trying to alter shit. Mandela effect, which ironically enough only exists in North America. There's no Mandela effect anywhere that isn't here. Maybe Australia, there might be some, but there ain't no Mandela effect anywhere else because it's essentially a propaganda campaign. The Rolling Stones put it really good. What's puzzling you is the nature of my game, right? And that's this word game and the Mandela effects and how judges destroy court, teachers destroy education, lawyers destroy law, police do the same, right? That is this system of commerce created by men thinking that they are above God, right? The Pope thinks that he's above God. He tells you to worship him. He said, if you give me money, I will pardon your sins, right? When the whole COVID thing happened, he said, we'll extend the days that this is an actual holiday. We will extend the days that you're allowed to pay me to forgive your sins, which is total bullshit. Like, how are you so fucking lost that you believe that, like, that makes sense? You're going to give some dude in a big ass hat money and then your soul is going to be cleaned. No, sir. Get it out of here. Sorry, I did it again. I got to get back into this shit anyway, so I may as well. And I'm finishing, not making any statements, right? I'm not saying anything about Muhammad. It's the same principle, right? These are, it's a literal description of something that is not literal. It's using physical things to describe things that are spiritual, right? The Quran's the same way. It says when you die at Islam. I'm sorry, I forgot the verse, but it says something along the lines of die in Islam, right? Islam means peace, right? So it's not saying join a religious group and be classified as a terrorist by whatever, right? It says die at peace. Just as in the Bible it says be faithful unto death. Let your heart not be troubled. Many But also, the Quran says Ishmael is the chosen son of Abraham, right? And people think that this is a guy that had 2 sons and whatever, when Galatians chapter 4 verse 22 says that the entire story of Abraham is allegory and such, right? It's a story that's made to teach you a lesson. It's a I forgot that word too. You see what I mean? I'm totally out of this, and I really want to get back in there, and I'm going to. But the Quran says Ishmael is the chosen one. The Bible says Isaac is the chosen one. The truth is that you are the chosen one. But I got to end this here, because if I don't, I'll go on forever. I love you guys. Love all you guys. I'll see you soon. I promise. Peace out.